Hello, welcome to the first session of The Lab, Making Sense of Immersion in 2021, a series of online meetups gathering key professionals from the XR or mixed reality and museum industries for game conversations. For this first session, we will focus on how to foster collaborations between immersive creatives and cultural spaces. Hi, I'm Darragh Dandurand, and it is a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited to host this three-part series alongside a lot of incredible artists, interesting minds, and wonderful institutions that want to make these conversations happen. A little bit about me. I'm a creative director based in New York City. I'm also a journalist and a curator myself. So I'm really excited to be able to have these conversations today and learn more about the challenges and the wins that are part of the museum and technology industries together. The work that I do is around advocating for emerging technology, immersive tech specifically, and new media. I always want brands and agencies and studios to push towards the future and to try to reimagine what we've done so that we can do something better when we move ahead. All that to say, I also cover a lot of technology and art as a journalist, and that's a really special privilege for me because I get to talk to wonderful people doing cool things all the time. And that's part of what today's first episode is about. This program has been initiated by We Are Museums, a community of museum changemakers leading museums through change, and Museum Connections, an international trade fair focusing on the business of sustainable challenges for museums, cultural and touristic venues. Museum Connections highlights trends and innovations to imagine the new visitor's experience. The next event will take place in May in Paris, France. For this series, The Lab, We Are Museums connected with key actors from across fields and oceans to join forces. These groups include the cultural services of the French Embassy. As part of the program French Immersion, the French Embassy has launched a study on how to fund and distribute immersive experiences. The study is conducted by the US crowdfunding platform, the Kaleidoscope Fund, and has built a global network of over 20,000 top VR creators and industry leaders. Also, the Pixie Festival, a French festival that features an exhibition of the most innovative stories and digital installations. And additionally, Fabula, a cultural practice and observatory dedicated to the idea of world building with digital media, including virtual reality, open worlds, and online streams. This program has the ambition to create a safe space for dialogue for the key actors of the VR and immersive industry. Working with cultural institutions to unpack and unlock these main challenges is still an existing problem, and we need to discuss it. 3 30-minute online sessions will be presented over the next few weeks, starting today. And we welcome experts from France, the United States, and beyond to share their experience and analysis of immersive projects. This cycle of ongoing discussions will inspire a roundtable to be organized at Museum Connections 2021 in Paris. Lucky for us all, as I said, there are 2 additional events in this series. The next one is on December 1st with a focus on how to distribute immersive artworks in museums. And the last one on December 7th, which will be talking about immersion for cultural institutions. Which technology will we need to move it forward? Today and right now, I have the pleasure of introducing Chloé Jarry. She's the co-founder of the immersive and interactive production company, LucidRealities. She's also the executive director of The Enemy, a virtual and augmented reality project directed by Kareem Ben Khalifa. She is also the executive producer of Replay Memories, a web-based VR project by Gordon and Andres Jarry. She's recently launched several new VR projects as 123 Bruegel, Condemned to Play, or Claude Monet, The Water Lily Obsession. And with that, I hand it over to Chloé. Thank you.
Thank you, Darragh. Yeah, here I am. And hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here with you. So I need to share my screen first. I would say this way. Yeah, okay. So just to introduce quickly LucidRealities. So we are a production company based in Paris, in France. And since 2.5 years now, we are quite young, we are working on immersive project and specifically with museums. That means that we partner with museum, of course, on the different topics and thematics of our project, but also as venues where to present the project to. So it can be some multi-users immersive experience, as we have done for The Enemy, Darragh, you are referencing to this project, or location-based experience, or VR exhibition format, more large, and we may speak about that in the workshop. So the way we are partnering with museum, as I told you, is also to co-produce with international co-production and different museums, but also working on distribution. Just to present a few projects we have already produced or we are working on, like the Claude Monet, I will tell you more about this one, or Archivia. We are working on this project for next year, or Starry Sand Beach, Lady Sapiens, or this kind of project. We are trying to partner with different kind of partners, like broadcaster, public funds, public and private funds, museums, as I told you, and also private companies, including universities, academics, foundation. So just to tell you more about Claude Monet, we produced this project already 2 years ago, and are working right now on another project with the same partner, Musée d'Orsay. This one was co-produced also with Arte, the French and German broadcaster, and Geboder Beats, that is a German production company based in Germany, and Camera Lucida. Just few images, lighting images. I hope it will work smoothly. So the teaser first.
Aside from painting and gardening, I'm good at nothing at all.
So as you have seen, this project is really about the water lilies panels from the Musée de l'Orangerie, that is part now of Musée d'Orsay in Paris. So these very large panels have been made by Claude Monet as his very late, even last work on the late 20s, 1 century ago. And the story Nicolas Thépaut, who is the director of the piece, wanted to tell was more the obsession that bring Claude Monet through this work about the water lilies. Claude Monet has done more than 250 different paintings about the water lilies. So the idea was to to begin the work, of course, in the museum, but to bring the audience in different places where Claude Monet has worked around the water lilies. So, of course, his house in with his garden at Giverny that you can see up on the left. That is the place where he has worked during more than 30 years. And on the right, you can see the studio. Claude Monet has made this studio especially for this very large canvas. And we have worked also deeply on the painting. And I will let maybe Nicolas Thépaut in this short video to explain how it did for that.
The genius of this painting is the color and his touch and the strokes. You can see totally different things if you're close to it and if you're far from it. Bringing this into VR was for me a powerful experience in the sense that I wanted to bring the people inside the paintings. So we took a lot of pictures of the paintings, really close up. And we build a 3D space, trying to separate all the strokes and just carefully placing them into the 3D space.
It's a point of view that we don't have in the original painting, but we try to be as close of the spirit of real painting.
So at the beginning, you're in the room. The room is filled with water. The water goes up, you were projected onto the pond, and you can see plants are growing, you can see the lights changing, shifting, the seasons are changing. Claude Monet had a studio, but he built another one bigger because the paintings were bigger. This is the picture I gave to the 3D artist, and I just told him I want to be there. I think it was 10 days after that. I put the headset on, and it was very, very moving for me because it was the first time everybody went back into the studio since that time, that picture.
So the way we have worked with the Musée d'Orsay for this VR piece was really to co-produce the work. So we were developing this story with Nicolas, who wrote the script and who wanted to tell the story of this obsession through the letters that Claude Monet and Georges Clemenceau, the statesman, have exchanged during more than 50 years, I think. And so he had written this script, and of course we thought it would be great to present this first VR project at the Musée d'Orsay. So we went to see the team there and all the artistic, the director of the museum, and we offer them to co-produce with the support of Arte, who put some, of course, some money and their skills to bring this work alive. And we decided at the end of the production to launch the project in the Musée de l'Orangerie. So you can see some pictures there. We installed 3 different booths, and we present the projects there during 4 months, partnering with HTC Vive Arts that supports, of course, the project and the exhibitions there. So what was very interesting for the museum at that time was they were able to have this study about the audience and the way the audience accepts the VR. for the people who know the Musée de l'Orangerie, the VR booths were downstairs, so not at the same level than the paintings, but in the middle of another painting galleries. And the audience were one of the point we saw is really that the audience changed the way they were visiting the museum because of the VR. So first they were going, of course, to the panels and see the paintings, but after that they went to VR and they were going back to see the paintings after the VR because they thought they understood more and they wanted to see differently the painting after that. I think I don't have a lot. Yeah.
We are at time, so I would love to know some of your final thoughts on your work. It's beautiful.
Exactly. I just finished to present what we did also with the museum is to bring the VR piece outside of the museum and to bring these big panels that are stuck on the walls in the museum and that will never move outside and in other museums through the VR work. So that's a selection of the exhibition we were able to have the 2 last years. And I think, just little, this last slide to say how we think it's a very, very good thing to co-produce, and both for the museum, but also for the producer, of course, and the way we can add different values and show marketing and promotion on both sides, and also developing different formats from this piece. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chloe. That was really, really interesting, and I appreciate you sharing about your work. And that piece about Claude Monet was absolutely beautiful. And it brings up so many questions in my mind about how do we take iconic, memorable, world-renowned, and invaluable pieces of art and translate them for new audiences and new technologies. So thank you for giving me those thoughts, and hopefully we'll be able to discuss that more at some point. I'd like to introduce our next speaker. Her name's Christiane Paul. She's an adjunct curator of digital art at the Whitney Museum of American Art in New York City, as well as the chief curator and director of the Sheila C. Johnson Design Center and a professor in the School of Media Studies at the New School. She is the recipient of the Toma Foundation's 2016 Arts Writing Award in Digital Art. At the Whitney Museum, she curated exhibitions including Programmed Rules, Codes, and Choreographies in Art, 1965 to 2018, and is responsible for Artport, the museum's portal to internet art. Other recent curatorial works include The Question of Intelligence at the New School's Kellen Gallery. Without further ado, Christiane, I hand it over to you.
Thanks so much for the introduction, Darragh. I'm very happy to be here with you, and also thanks a lot for the beautiful overview, Chloe. So I'm going to share my screen and hope you can see it right now. I will come to this from a different perspective. So as Darragh said, I'm a curator of digital art, which means that I have been working with artists who use VR and immersive technologies as a medium for quite some time. VR has a long, long history, and it is often said that we are now in the third phase of the medium. What you just saw in the video on the left was the first headset that was created in 1968. And on the right, you see a setup with the data glove, which was invented in the 80s, and Jarry Lanier is often referenced as the creator or inventor of VR. So once again, I am working mostly with artists who use the technology as a medium for their artwork, rather than, as Chloe presented, using VR technology to bring existing work in traditional forms to an audience in a different form. And I want to start out by talking about more mixed reality, or specifically augmented reality projects that we have shown at the Whitney Museum. Once again, this is not the total immersion of VR, but an overlay of digital elements onto reality. So for the exhibition programmed Rules, Codes, and Choreographies in Art 1965 to 2018, which I co-curated with Carol Mancusi-Ungaro and Clemence White, we commissioned a piece by Tamiko Thiel called Unexpected Growth. And this work created basically a coral reef on the terraces of the Whitney Museum on the 6th floor. And that reef really pointed to and referenced climate change, since it is all constructed out of plastic debris. And before I show you a brief video clip, I would like to talk a little bit about the setup. So visitors coming to the museum would encounter a wall text and be able to download the work onto their mobile devices. But we also set up in the window, as you can see here, 2 iPads on which people could experience the work. One thing that I also want to note here, and you see that a little bit on the top right, is that there was a certain aspect of interactivity to the piece, in the sense that the more people would view the work, the more this coral reef made out of plastic would bleach throughout the day. So by the end of the day, it would appear as kind of white and then reset itself overnight. And here you get a little bit more of an impression of the experience out on the Whitney's terraces, and you hear the sound of the water and see all of the elements, the polluters, plastic bottles, flip-flops, and rubber duckies, which references the famous sinking and crash of a cargo ship that contained tens of thousands of rubber duckies, which were subsequently used by scientists to study ocean currents. So this work, which we then later on brought into the collection, Julie Walsh actually very generously donated it to the Whitney, was also followed by work in an exhibition of Ellen Michelson's work. The exhibition was titled Wolf Nation and curated by Chrissy Isles with Clemence White. And in this case, augmented reality was used to add an extra layer to this frieze that you see here. Ellen Michelson, as an indigenous artist, worked with a legacy of indigenous people in the area, and without getting into too much depth of the work, you could see kind of history unfolding over the bust of George Washington, who is known as the town destroyer, once you held up your phone with the app. And in the lobby of the Whitney Museum, you would see tobacco plants taking over, because originally the site at which the Whitney Museum now resides was a tobacco field. So here just 2 examples of augmented reality works that we have exhibited at the Whitney Museum. And I also want to speak a little bit about VR, an VR exhibition that we showed at the Sheila Johnson Design Center, curated by Tina Sauerländer, Peggy Schönegger, and Randy Vergara. And one of the challenges of bringing VR into the gallery and museum space is, of course, that the experience of a headset sitting somewhere or dangling from the ceiling is not the most interesting one to experience artwork. So we showed all of the works as installations, some of them with hanging screens. So as a viewer, you would also be able to see what the participant would see in their headset, and elements of the installation referenced the virtual world. So this, just as one of the challenges that you're presented with as a curator of this medium, establishing context for this work is incredibly important. So another aspect I want to talk about is a different way of showing this work, specifically DMODA, which is the Digital Museum of Digital Art run by Alfredo Salazar Caro with Robert Williams. DMODA is a virtual museum, so for each rendition of DMODA, you have a different architect designing a virtual museum in which you encounter pavilions, and within these pavilions, you would experience the different artworks. I'm very happy to curate DMODA 4.0. And what you have just seen is a draft of the architecture for that specific museum. We conceived this before COVID hit, but the theme really resonates. The theme is dislocation, and all of the works that you will encounter in DMODA in the future are approaching dislocation from various angles. The artists are, once again, Tamiko Thiel and Ricardo Miranda Zuniga, Buns and Bowinkel, German artists, as well as La Journée Macmillan. And I'm talking about DMODA here to reference yet another way of presenting VR within a museum space. So here you have a completely virtual construct that then goes on tour and is shown as an installation of a museum within museum spaces. And in conclusion, I just want to show you a short clip from one of the pieces, which is Ricardo Miranda Zuniga's Desplazados. So this work deals with the gentrification of the Lower East Side in New York, specifically the Essex complex close to the Williamsburg Bridge. And as you are walking in the virtual world through the space, as it looked like you encounter audio interviews with inhabitants who talk about the effect of gentrification in their area.
You know, the city's going to grow and change. It's natural. That's what happens. We get more people. We're going to need more apartments. These upscale buildings that come in here, I mean, of course, these people. Some handicapped people with children. Everybody needs to be able to live here. Why don't they see
today? Wealth is accumulated through entertainment or real estate. If you don't have the talent to entertain, to capture the imagination of young and old, then real estate is your ticket to wealth.
So the sound here is spatialized, and you hear better once you approach.
It is nice to hear it's going to be for mixed
locations.
use, and they'll have lower income and middle income if they have middle income.
You know what I mean? They can't handle it because the plan's already there. It doesn't Puerto Rico or Latino, right? And black.
So I'll end it here. This just as a brief example of the different ways in which you can bring VR into the museum space. Thank you so much.
Christiane, thank you so much for sharing about your work and about your interests and the different collaborators you've worked with. We actually have a question that was posed on YouTube for you. Did the visitors have to install an app for the AR experience? What was that process like for participants and interested parties, patrons, to be able to use these experiences inside institutions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we wanted to make sure that we play this in different ways. So the people downloading were mostly younger people, very familiar with downloading apps all the time. We had a QR code on the wall from which they could scan. So the younger demographic, largely, of the museum visitors would immediately do that, while others who didn't have their phone on them, for example, or iPad, could also move to the iPads within the museum space. And providing these different portals into the experience was very important to us. I would always suggest in a more traditional art museum, such as the Whitney, which doesn't get visitors that are focused only on digital art, to provide different entry points and to have also maybe phones or iPads on site that can be handed out to people rather than going for download only. But in general, the experience seemed to be very smooth for everyone, and we were surprised at how many people immediately downloaded the app.
That's wonderful to hear. I love that. Adoption for those types of installations, getting people to understand how to engage, is always a difficult task. Definitely one of the main, if not the main, challenge of getting immersive tech into museums, in my humble opinion. That all to say, thank you so much, Christiane and Chloé, to all the organizers of the lab who I mentioned earlier. I know you've all worked tirelessly to put this together, and also for everyone viewing today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for engaging with us. A quick reminder, again, there are 2 more events in the series. The next one on December 1st, the title of which is How to Distribute Immersive Artworks in a Museum. And on December 7th, we'll talk about immersion for cultural institutions, which technology for which need. Thank you so much. They're going to both be free on Eventbrite, just like this one, and we hope that you can join us next time.